I speak to you today with feelings of profound sorrow.
A royal motorcade was progressing through streets packed with crowds when it suddenly came to a complete halt. It wasn't due to a security incident or an accident, but because King Charles himself raised his hand to stop the procession upon noticing that Queen Camilla had appeared in a completely different position from the ceremonial diagram he had personally approved. Just a few minutes later, Camilla quietly returned to her original spot, and the ceremony continued as if nothing had happened. But for Charles, the incident could not simply be dismissed as a mistake. When he secretly reviewed all the preparation files for the event, he discovered that the motorcade diagram had been altered right before departure without his approval. Meanwhile, Camilla insisted that it was merely an error by the subordinates. Was it truly an innocent administrative oversight? Or had someone deliberately tried to change the image of the royal family in front of millions of people? And if everything had been prepared days in advance, how would King Charles handle the matter? London, on a summer morning in 2026, the sky was clear blue and golden sunlight shimmered down on the ancient streets along the royal procession route. Thousands of British citizens and tourists from around the world gathered on both sides of the road, waving Union Jack flags, their eyes fixed on Buckingham Palace. Cheers echoed through the air, and television cameras from major networks were ready to capture every moment. The magnificent royal horse-drawn carriage began to move. The stately Windsor greys, those white horses, pulled the gilded carriage with grandeur. King Charles III sat in the central position, his demeanor calm and composed, his gaze directed straight ahead with the dignity of a monarch who had weathered many storms. Beside him, according to the approved plan, was Queen Camilla, the woman who had stood by him through years of challenges. She wore an elegant outfit and smiled at the cameras, trying to project the confidence and grace of a queen. According to the ceremonial diagram personally approved by the king weeks earlier, the positions were arranged with strict clarity. Charles led at the main center with Camilla seated to his right, in keeping with traditional protocol. Behind them was the carriage of Prince William and Princess Catherine, representing the future of the monarchy. Everything seemed to be going smoothly. The steady clop of hooves on the pavement and the resounding cheers from the crowd filled the air. But just minutes after departure, an unexpected incident occurred. King Charles suddenly raised his right hand, clearly signaling the royal guard. That moment was like a bolt of lightning in a clear sky. The guard immediately reacted, halting the entire procession in the middle of the road. Everything stopped, creating an astonishing silence amid the initial cheers. Thousands of eyes turned toward the lead carriage. Cameras zoomed in, and reporters whispered into their microphones, "What's happening?" The public began murmuring, the atmosphere shifting from excitement to curiosity and concern. Charles turned to Camilla. His face was no longer calm. His eyes showed clear displeasure and determination. He waved for the senior ceremonial official, accompanying the procession to approach. The king's voice was low but carried undeniable authority. This does not match the approved diagram. Camilla is positioned too centrally and has shifted to the left of the order. She must return immediately to her correct position on my right, in accordance with traditional protocol. Camilla initially tried to maintain her public smile, but it was clear she was extremely flustered. Her face paled slightly, her lips pressed tightly together. She glanced at her husband, her eyes a mix of surprise, disappointment, and a flash of anger. "Charles, I just wanted," she said softly, her voice so low that only those closest could hear. But the king remained unmoved. He shook his head lightly, firmly, upholding the established order. Several tense minutes passed, as if they would never end. The ceremonial official hurriedly coordinated and guided Camilla back to her original position, according to the original diagram on the king's right, without overshadowing the center or affecting the order of William and Catherine behind them. The atmosphere around them grew unusually heavy. The crowd continued cheering, but many had clearly noticed the issue the Queen had attempted to take a more prominent position than prescribed. Once the positions were corrected, Charles signaled the procession to continue. The sound of hooves resumed, but the atmosphere had completely changed. Camilla's smile now seemed forced and her eyes avoided the cameras. The king maintained his composed exterior, but everyone could sense the tension hanging over them. The parade ended with outward propriety, but the echoes of that moment when the carriage stopped spread everywhere. Buckingham Palace remained completely silent, offering no official explanation. The public bombarded them with questions. Was this a sign of a rift in the relationship between Charles and Camilla, or simply the strict enforcement of royal protocol? That moment was not just a minor royal traffic incident. It had sparked deeper suspicions about power status and the hidden conflicts within the monarchy. After the royal motorcade returned to Buckingham Palace, the cheers of the crowd still lingered outside. But inside the palace, there was a heavy silence. King Charles III removed his ceremonial robe and strode into his private study with quicker steps than usual. His face could not hide his fatigue mixed with irritation. The moment the carriage stopped in the middle of London's streets still haunted him. He could not let it pass as a minor mishap. Charles sat down at his large desk, covered with documents and ceremonial files. He summoned his private secretary. "Bring me the original approved ceremonial diagram and the one used today." His voice was low, but carried a clear command. When the two documents were placed before him, the king began comparing every detail. His eyes narrowed as he spotted the clear differences. Camilla's position had been pushed higher and closer to the center than in the original diagram. Other positions, especially those of William and Catherine, had also been slightly affected. "This is not an ordinary administrative error," Charles muttered, his voice full of suspicion. He had reigned long enough to understand the procedures thoroughly. Any change to a national-level ceremony, especially a public procession, had to go through multiple layers of approval from the ceremonial office, royal advisors, and himself. Such a last-minute change could not happen by chance. He felt a growing unease. As a husband, he understood Camilla's desire to affirm her status. But as king, he could not accept anyone arbitrarily altering the symbols of the monarchy. He immediately summoned the advisor in charge of the ceremonial office. The man entered with a worried expression. Charles got straight to the point. Today, the positions in the motorcade were changed. Who proposed and approved the final update? The advisor stammered. "Your Majesty, we only received the new version through the internal system a few hours before departure." Everyone assumed it was an order from higher up and followed it without rechecking. Charles tapped his fingers on the desk, his voice sharpening. "Higher up, I never signed any changes. This is a public ceremony, not a personal joke." He demanded to see the entire preparation process, the edit history of documents, email exchanges, and lists of those who had accessed the diagram. The deeper he dug, the clearer it became that this was not a technical error. The original diagram had been completely replaced with no official approval trail. His suspicions grew stronger. He recalled recent conversations with Camilla when she expressed her desire to be recognized more fully. Could she be involved? The thought pained him, but he could not ignore it. In Charles's heart at that moment was a fierce internal conflict. He loved Camilla and had fought for her current position, but he was also the heir to Queen Elizabeth II's legacy, a monarch who always placed duty and order above all else. If personal changes are allowed to seep into protocol, the monarchy will gradually lose its credibility, he thought to himself. He decided not to act hastily in public, but to investigate discreetly. The king ordered a small trusted team to begin reviewing all files related to the event. In the following hours, Charles sat alone in his room, reviewing footage of the procession. The image of his raised hand stopping the motorcade replayed clearly. He sighed heavily. Today's event was not just a small embarrassing moment, but could be a sign of deeper issues within the court. He felt weary from balancing his role as husband, with his responsibilities as king. But he knew that if he did not clarify things, such mistakes would continue threatening the royal family's image before the British people and the world. Charles stood up and looked out the palace window. Outside London was still bustling, but he understood clearly behind the splendor of the monarchy lay silent struggles for power and loyalty. He clenched his fist, determined to uncover the truth. The secret investigation officially began, and it would lead to discoveries that would shake the entire royal family. Many days before the royal procession, the atmosphere at Buckingham Palace appeared peaceful on the surface, but inside quiet scheming had already begun. Queen Camilla sat in her private sitting room, afternoon sunlight streaming through the large windows onto her face. She held a teacup, but did not drink her gaze, lost in thought. After many years by Charles's side, Camilla still felt a void in her status. Public opinion often dwelt on the past and old shadows, and she craved clearer recognition. During a private evening together after a long day, Camilla spoke up. Her voice was gentle, but full of longing. "Charles, I am the Queen. I want to stand in a more deserving position during major ceremonies. Not to compete, but so that people see I truly belong to this reign." Charles had only nodded lightly, at the time preoccupied with work, not yet grasping the depth of her words. Camilla did not stop there. She called her closest aides into her private office. These were people who had followed her for years and understood her feelings and ambitions. "I want to appear more prominent in the motorcade. Consider adjusting the diagram slightly for the sake of optimizing the media image," she said firmly. The aides exchanged glances. One spoke up, "Your Majesty, we can send the update at the last minute." Many small changes are usually accepted to suit lighting and camera angles. Camilla nodded, her eyes lighting up with hope. She believed Charles would not object strongly in front of live television cameras. "He will understand. This is just a small thing to make our reign more perfect," she told herself. In the following days, the aides worked secretly. They edited the diagram, pushing Camilla's position closer to the center, while making light adjustments to others, so it would not be too obvious. The update was sent to the ceremonial office just hours before the event, with a note, "Final adjustment for image purposes." Camilla followed the progress with a mix of nervousness and excitement. She imagined herself appearing radiant, drawing more public attention and affirming her indispensable role beside the king. "Finally, I will be recognized as I deserve," she thought, a faint smile appearing on her lips. However, she had not anticipated Charles's decisive reaction. When the motorcade stopped in the middle of the road, Camilla felt as if doused with cold water. Her heart pounded, her face paling beneath her makeup. She clearly felt her husband's gaze, not ordinary anger, but deep disappointment. In that moment, Camilla realized she had underestimated his steadfast commitment to royal protocol. Why did he do that in front of everyone? She thought, shame and frustration like surging. She tried to stay calm, moving back to her original position as ordered, but her hands clenched tightly, nails digging into her palms. After the ceremony back at the palace, Camilla sat alone, filled with anxiety. She knew Charles would not let it slide. Her aides reported that the king had requested the files. "We need to prepare," she said in a lower voice, still trying to sound decisive. This was just done with good intentions, not a plot. Yet deep down, Camilla understood that her actions had crossed the line. She wanted to affirm her position, but now it risked destroying the trust of the very husband she loved. A sense of remorse enveloped Camilla. She recalled the difficult journey to reach her current position, the sacrifices and public criticism. "I just wanted to be respected," she whispered to herself. But personal ambition had led her to take a risk, and now the consequences were emerging. That small plot born from a legitimate desire, but executed wrongly, had ignited a quiet crisis within the royal family. After issuing the internal investigation order, King Charles III continued to push the process of uncovering the truth discreetly. he recognized that his initial suspicions were only the surface. He had to uncover the entire chain of preparations behind the position change in the motorcade. In the following days, the king directed a small group of 3 most loyal courtiers, completely independent of Camilla's office, to conduct a thorough review. Charles requested all related paper files, draft ceremonial diagrams, meeting minutes, handwritten notes from the ceremonial office, and lists of participants in meetings the week before the procession. I want to know exactly who proposed the change, who agreed, and who carried it out, he emphasized firmly. The courtiers discreetly questioned each relevant official, one by one. A senior ceremonial secretary was summoned before the king. The man was initially very tense, but under Charles's sharp gaze, he confessed, "We received verbal instructions from one of the Queen's aides that this was her personal wish and needed to be done quickly for the ceremony. No one dared ask further for fear of offending superiors." Each testimony made the picture clearer. Charles discovered that at least 3 separate small meetings had taken place in Camilla's office the previous week, discussing adjusting positions to make the Queen more prominent. Draft diagrams had been manually edited multiple times with margin notes in the handwriting of her closest aide. All changes were forwarded to the ceremonial office at the latest possible moment, right before staff began their official shifts. Charles sat motionless for hours in his study, turning page after page. He gripped the edges of the documents tightly when he saw the tightly coordinated chain of actions. This was not an impulsive last-minute decision, but a carefully prepared plan spanning many days. Camilla's aides had skillfully convinced some officials that the king would agree for the benefit of the royal family's image. A sense of betrayal surged in Charles's heart. He recalled long nights of intimate conversations, times when he comforted Camilla about public pressure and promised to protect her. "I have given her everything, yet she still wants to overstep every boundary," he thought, sorrow mixed with anger weighing heavily on his chest. But as king, he quickly reined in his personal emotions. He ordered the investigation team to continue gathering evidence through testimonies and documents without disclosing anything to anyone outside himself. By the 3rd day, Charles had a thick, detailed report in hand. All leads pointed to one source, Camilla's office. This was a deliberate plan to alter the ceremonial order without the king's approval. Charles stood up and paced the room with heavy steps. He looked out at the royal gardens, his gaze distant. He understood that the upcoming confrontation would be difficult but unavoidable. His resolve was firm. This deep investigation not only helped him grasp the truth, but also reinforced his belief that he must act decisively to protect the order and prestige of the entire monarchy. He called his private secretary one last time. "Prepare a private meeting with the Queen for tomorrow evening, and ensure not a word leaks out." At the same time, news of King Charles's secret investigation quickly reached Queen Camilla's ears. She was in her private room, holding a book, but unable to focus. When a close aide entered and whispered the report, Camilla's face changed instantly. Her complexion paled and her hands clenched so tightly that her nails dug deep into her palms. "He has already started investigating," she asked, her voice trembling with a mix of anxiety and anger. Camilla stood up immediately and began pacing the room restlessly. She knew Charles's character well. Once he suspected something, he would dig to the end. Unable to sit still, she urgently summoned her closest group of aides for a closed-door meeting in her private office. The atmosphere in the room was heavy. No one dared speak first. "Listen," Camilla began, trying to keep her voice calm, but clearly showing urgency. "The king is reviewing all ceremonial files. You must immediately retrieve all edited diagrams. Burn or delete every related document. Say they were only test drafts that were never officially sent." One aide hesitated. "Your Majesty, some ceremonial officials have already received the new version. They are being summoned for statements." Camilla whirled around, her eyes cold. "Then you must coordinate your statements. This was just a mistake in the preparation process. I never directly ordered changes to the motorcade order. It was all subordinates deciding on their own to optimize the image. Understood. The aides nodded, but everyone felt the enormous pressure. They began acting immediately urgently, contacting those involved, retrieving documents, and instructing everyone to align their stories. Camilla stood by the window, looking out at the royal gardens, her heart in turmoil. She had not expected things to go this far. "I just wanted a little more respect," she whispered to herself, her voice full of remorse. Why did Charles react so strongly in front of the entire nation? In the following hours, Camilla received continuous reports. Some ceremonial officials had already testified to the king, and their statements did not fully match the script she had prepared. Someone inadvertently mentioned instructions from the Queen's office, creating dangerous gaps. Camilla grew more panicked. She sat down, holding her head. Memories flooded back the long journey to become queen. The public criticism, the pressure to prove herself. She had thought a small change would go unnoticed, and that Charles would understand out of marital affection. Now, everything was crumbling. The fear of losing status and her husband's trust kept her awake. If Charles makes this public, I will become a laughingstock for the whole country. She thought, tears rolling down her cheeks before she quickly wiped them away. Despite her efforts to cover it up, Camilla's actions only complicated the situation further. The aides began to panic. Some even wanted to withdraw to protect themselves. Contradictory testimonies spread, making it clear to Charles, even from afar, who was truly behind the matter. Camilla sensed the storm approaching. She knew she had made a mistake, but now all she could do was try to minimize the damage. At the end of the day, Camilla sat alone in the darkness, her heart full of regret mixed with resentment. She loved Charles, but her desire to affirm her status had blinded her. The king's investigation was tightening, and she understood that a confrontation was inevitable. The rift in the royal family had become deeper than ever. After many days of secret investigation, King Charles III had all the necessary evidence in hand. His study was now overflowing with documents, but his mind focused solely on the unavoidable confrontation. He summoned Camilla to a private meeting in the royal library, the place where they had once shared peaceful moments. The atmosphere was oppressively heavy. Charles sat upright, his gaze resolute, but also revealing deep sorrow. When Camilla entered, she tried to maintain composure, but Charles immediately noticed the anxiety in his wife's eyes. He did not beat around the bush. His voice was low but sharp. "Camilla, I know everything. The change in the motorcade positions was not a random mistake. It all originated from your office. Your aides edited the diagram and sent the new version at the last minute without my approval." Camilla's face paled. She sat down in the chair opposite him, hands clenched tightly. "Charles, I just wanted to be recognized as I deserve. I didn't think it would be this serious. It wasn't a plot, just a mistake." Her voice trembled, mixing remorse and excuses. Charles shook his head, his eyes showing clear disappointment. "A mistake. You violated national ceremonial procedures. You nearly caused the royal family to lose face before the public, the media, and all of Britain. I am your husband, but I am also the king. I cannot tolerate this." The confrontation dragged on in a tense atmosphere. Camilla tried to persuade him, tears streaming down. "I feared I would always be just a shadow. I wanted to affirm my place in the royal family, because this reign is mine too." Charles sighed heavily, holding her hand for a moment before letting go. "I understand your pain. I fought for you to stand in this position. But protocol is not a personal game. It is the symbol of stability, a legacy I must protect." Despite the clear evidence, Charles decided not to make the matter public, to avoid a major scandal that would damage the monarchy's prestige. He made a firm decision. From now on, your office is not allowed to intervene in the preparation of any national ceremonies. All changes to positions, order, or plans must have direct written approval from me. His voice was resolute, allowing no argument. Camilla bowed her head, tears falling. She clearly felt her influence being significantly curtailed. "You no longer trust me?" she asked, her voice pained. Charles looked at her, his eyes reddening. Trust needs time to rebuild, Camilla. Duty to the monarchy must come first. The king's decision was quickly implemented. New internal regulations were issued tightening the approval process. Camilla's office lost many important powers. Outside the palace, rumors of a serious rift between the two began to spread. Some whispered about the possibility of divorce, though the palace repeatedly denied it. Charles stood alone by the window, looking out at London at night. He felt weary, but relieved. This difficult decision had protected the royal order, affirming that no one, not even those closest, could arbitrarily alter the symbols of the monarchy. Meanwhile, Camilla, in her private room, cried alone, regretting how ambition had driven them apart. She learned a costly lesson in the royal family. Personal desires must yield to shared responsibilities. The incident came to a close, but its echoes remained. The relationship between Charles and Camilla now had a deep crack, one that could heal but would leave a scar. The royal family continued to operate with an appearance of solidity, but the public and media continued to watch quietly. Through this event, King Charles once again affirmed his role not only as a husband, but as a monarch, protecting a sacred legacy. According to you, was King Charles right to stop the entire royal motorcade to protect protocol? Or should he have handled the matter discreetly after the ceremony?